Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Trading Together. I'm Mel Gacee. Today is Wednesday, January the 7th. We did get some interesting data today, and we're going to take a look at these charts here and see if we can catch some live trades together. This is a place for learning and growing and a place for you to watch me trade live. So thanks for being here. And if you are here, I would love it if you would drop your name in the chat. Let's get to know each other. I'd love to answer any questions or comments you might have. All right. So let's take a look here at our charts this morning. I'm going to jump right in. And you can see that we've got kind of a bit of a V going on here, right? Market is just kind of in a larger range, kind of up and down in this larger range. So we opened up the morning with a little dip, got a little push, came down, came up, came big down, back up again. So it's been these kind of moves are good for scalping. So I've already taken a few trades this morning, and those have gone well. So right now, what I'm looking for is a bit of a turnaround here on this run up. So we're starting to get this slight turnaround here. And I'm just kind of looking for entries to the downside. We want to be in an upward trend. So anytime we take a counter trend trade, it's riskier. So I always want to make sure I've got all of my indicators saying the same thing. Inner Joy is here. Good morning. Good to see you. All right, coming down just a bit here. Nothing major just yet. And we haven't gone too far to the up or to the downside. Basically about 11 points up and roughly 19 points down roughly. So not a super big range this morning, but big enough to trade. So one thing I like to do is kind of get an idea of what the other players in the market are doing. So I like to take a look at the other Mag 7 players. So the Magnificent Seven, the big tech stocks. I like to see what they're doing. I like to see what the other indices are doing, especially the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 tend to kind of go together. They sort of usually kind of fly in the same direction, right? So I like to look at that. And right now we've got the Qs, that's the ETF over the NASDAQ, just overhead. So the Qs are up at about 0.4%. And the SPY, that's the ETF over the S&P 500, we're up about 0.1. So just over our flat line. Like I said, about 5 points up. Nothing major right now. Kind of a range bound, nothing super major. But the Qs, again, up ahead of us. And then I'm going to take a look at the big players, the big tech stocks. And what we've got is Microsoft is up 2%. Google is up 1.8%. NVIDIA up 1.3%. Amazon 1.3%. Broadcom almost 1%. Tesla up almost 0.9%, almost 1%. And the MAGs as a whole, the whole ETF, the MAG 7 ETF is up 0.8%. So that's a good indicator that we're bullish. On the negative side, we've got Apple just down below its flat line, just a little bit negative. And we've got Meta down 1.59, so that's a little bit more negative. But by and large, not a ton of negative movement out of the Magnificent Seven. All right, Christy Rabancho is here. Good morning, Christy. Good to see you. Good to see you too, Joy. All right. So right now we're getting a tiny little pullback, but not really enough signal to go with puts. So remember, puts are when we want the market to go down, calls are when we want the market to go up. So I play both directions, which is great. That's a great benefit of being a scalper. You can pivot and you're kind of light on your feet. That's kind of the idea. All right, getting a little bit more movement here. Just setting a limit order here on a position that I'm in. All right. So not really getting strong confirmation yet to the downside. And I've got some lines drawn here. I've kind of gone over this before, but I'll show you what they mean. These green lines, so I usually set 3 sets of lines every morning. I go onto my charts pre-market, and I set the high of day from yesterday, and I set the overnight high from last night. That's these 2 lines. They happen to be right on top of each other right here. And then I set the low of day from yesterday and the low of the overnight session. Those are both down here and also happen to be on top of each other. So this is our overnight and yesterday's range sitting right here between 692 and 687 SPY. So that's our kind of our overnight range. Now the green bars are our opening range, what we've done the first 15 minutes of the morning. So I hit the bottom over here and the top over here, and that shows us for the first 15 minutes what was our range. So right now we are sitting inside of our opening range, and we're sitting just over our high of day from yesterday. But we haven't gone super far. We're not really charging up yet. Like we're up 4 points from yesterday's close. That's not a lot. So we need to kind of see. I'm also keeping an eye down here on the VIX. And as you know, we've talked about the VIX a few times. The VIX is the volatility index, and that tells us basically how the market is feeling. It's emotional place. The market, believe it or not, is an emotional place. So the VIX tells us what the market is feeling. And when the VIX is moving down, the market's pretty happy, not so much fear, pretty complacent, pretty happy, wants to move up. When the VIX is up, the market is getting unhappy. It's getting fearful. It's getting scared. It's getting jittery. So as the VIX moves up, we see the market moving down. Well, right now we see the VIX coming down. That's in line with this rise right here. So you'll see the VIX hit a high for today at 10:19 Eastern, and that coincides exactly with our low of day at 10:18 Eastern. So VIX hit the high and rolled over. The market hit the low and rolled up. So right now, we've just been continuing on this downward trend on the VIX. So that tells us that until the VIX rolls to the upside, we're going to keep getting this movement up. But again, it hasn't been strong. It's not a strong move up. So could we take a call here if this MACD moves up? Yes, we could, but we're close to today's high, which was sitting at 693.0. So we want to be cautious of taking any upward moves here. The other thing I look at is where the volume is sitting for the options market. Right now, we've got heaviest volume sitting at the 693 calls at 344,000, followed pretty closely by the 691 puts at 317,000. So we've got kind of a little range in there, right? 691 to 693 right now is what we have. And that's kind of exactly what we're seeing. We came down here, 690, 691, and our top of the day so far is 693. So right now we're just kind of in between those areas. So now we just have to wait and see. And kind of consider, do we want to, if this thing continues to move up, do we want to trade this to the upside? I'm a little cautious of that with our top still sitting at 693. So it's not very far overhead. I'm more interested in getting a move to the downside, but we're not getting that just yet. All right. We are over the VWAP, so that usually is a statement telling us that we are more bullish than bearish. So this white line here is the VWAP, the value weighted average price. And if you watch how the price responds to that, usually we're either moving up away from it or moving down, but we always kind of come back to the VWAP, right? Christy asking, how many trades do you average in a day? Great question, Christy. Usually about 20 or 30, which seems like a lot. And some traders would tell you that's over trading. And in certain circumstances, it is. But for me, being a scalper, as long as I'm watching for my setups, that's not over trading. It's over trading if I'm jumping in and taking setups that aren't what they should be. And some days you just don't get that many setups. Some days I take very few trades, depending on what the setups look like. When we've got a nice moving market, we can take a lot more trades. But again, I want to be looking for the best setups that I can get. So some days those are quite a few, and some days there aren't that many. But a lot of days, I'm averaging about 20. I would say about 20 trades a day. Great question. Thanks, Joy. All right. Bill is here. Hello. 20 to 30 on the SPY only. Yeah, mostly, Bill. Sometimes I'll see something that catches my eye. For example, I traded some calls on Meta yesterday and did real well with those. But almost always my bread and butter is going to be the SPY. I know it very well. I like 0 days to expiration. Most stocks, most options on stocks do not have 0 days to expiration. We've only got a few of them out there. So the SPY, the IWM, the Qs, we don't have many more than that. And so I like 0 days to expiration. So usually I'm on the SPY. But occasionally I will trade other things as I see the opportunity. Great question. All right, Christy, how do you set up risk management? That is a great question, Christy. There are a couple of ways to manage risk. One of them is position size, and one of them is stop loss. Those are the two real pillars of risk management. You don't want to be in a position that's too big for your account. And I usually manage that I recommend people use a percentage of their account for deciding on their position size. if you're in a tiny account, you don't have a lot of options. You're kind of stuck. If you're going to trade options, you're kind of stuck looking for trades, because even if you're trading 0 days to expiration, if you're in a small account, you're probably going to have to risk maybe 10% or more of your account. I don't recommend that for people with a little bit of a larger account. If you're in an account 5,000 or better, you should be risking no more than 2 to max 5% of your account on any given trade. If you are risking more than 5%, you're really endangering your account. And even 5% is considered aggressive in a lot of places, right? But the bit larger your account, the more cushion you have, and you can trade small. You can trade 1 or 2% and still get a nice return. The smaller your account, you're kind of forced to take larger trades if you're going to trade options. So one is position size. Keep it consistent and keep it a certain percentage of your account. A good rule of thumb is if you are in a trade and your heart is palpitating and you can't sleep at night and you're just biting your nails, that's probably too big. Even if you're following this 1 to 2% rule, if you're feeling that way, you're going to make some bad choices emotionally, more than likely. So don't take a trade size that's going to make you just jittery and anxious. It's just not, that's too big. It's too big. So, aside from the formula, 2 to 5%, no more. Make sure that you're comfortable. You should be able to sit here comfortably and look at your trade and not feel like your head's going to blow up, right? You just don't want to be in that position. Not good for you physically either. The second foundation for risk management is your stop loss. Absolutely crucial. You guys have seen me take at least one stop on this stream, and it's no fun. Nobody likes to lose. We don't want to lose, but we have to take stop losses. Absolutely have to take stop losses. Now, my rule of thumb for stop losses is 50%. I can do that because I have a really high win rate and I'm taking enough wins to cover my losses. So you've got to do the math in your own trading. What is your win rate? What is your average win percent? And then you can figure out how much can I afford to put up on my stop loss. You always want your average stop loss, obviously, cumulative, to be less than your cumulative wins. But that's a mathematical formula. So you need to make sure that your stops, you're absolutely abiding by those stops. That is crucial for risk management, for capital management. That is the name of the game. Protect your capital at all costs. Protect your capital. So manage your position size, manage your stop loss, and make a decision on where your stop loss can be based on your win rate. Now, all of that is going to require, guess what? The J word. It's going to require journaling. You guys, I coach a lot of traders, and I will tell you this: nobody wants to journal. Nobody wants to journal, but it has to be done. You have to know, what is your win rate? What is your win percent? What is your loss percent? You have to know those things. You are flying blind if you're not journaling and you're not analyzing your journal. So that is, for every trader that I coach, that is a non-negotiable. You need to be journaling. At the very least, your entries, your exits, times, and the prices that you got in and got out. You can always go back and recreate those trades on the chart. You can look, you can analyze, that's important. But the real data is going to be, what is your win rate? What is your win percent? What is your loss percent? That is crucial. That's key. And within that, position size needs to remain consistent. You can't take 9 wins at 10% and use $1,000 position and then oh, I'm doing so good, jump into a $3,000 position and take a 50% loss. That's never going to work. Your position size has to remain consistent, or you're just not going to be able to be profitable. You can't take a big loss on a big trade and have a bunch of small losses, even if your win rate is great. And my win rate is high. But if I did that, I would not be profitable. So, long answer to a very short question, Christy, but I appreciate the question because it's really important to manage your risk. All right. Good morning, Gavilan. Good to see you. I'm so glad you guys are here this morning. It's so nice to have everyone joining me and being able to trade together. I appreciate you. All right. We are coming down a bit here. We're getting closer to the VWAP. We could consider some puts as we move down through the VWAP. All right, Christy, what made you want to start trading full time? Did you have another occupation aside from trading? That is such a good question, Christy. And I can give you a really brief rundown of my story if you want to hear it. Gavilan saying, I've been there at the FOMO. I know you have. Everybody has. We have all dealt with FOMO. That is really tough, but it's really important to manage. So yeah, I'll give you a brief rundown of my history, Christy, as a trader. What I studied for was computer programming. I was in IT for a lot of years, moved into corporate executive management, did really well, and then started having a family, started having children. And my ex and I made the decision for me to be a stay-at-home mom, and it was a great decision. I do not regret it. But I did neglect my career and my education, where I could have maybe done some continuing education or stayed in touch with my career. I did not. And of course, the computer field moved really quickly without me, right? That train left the station. And I was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of years. And so I did begin dabbling in trades and trading back in 2008, where I really kind of got my first taste of it. And I really loved it. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. Really loved it. It worked in my brain because I have that programming. I see patterns. It works for me. It worked for me. I enjoyed it. I love technical analysis. It's all I do is stare at charts, right? So I loved that. What happened is I was caught on the blind side by a very unexpected divorce. And at the time, again, did not really have a way to support myself. So I did a lot of Ubering and waiting tables, because like I said, my computer career had long passed me by. And all the while, I was trying to build my trading account. So eventually, I was able to build my trading account up to a certain size where I was able to kind of go on my own. And I did that for a couple of years, traded for myself. And then I kind of felt like I just don't know as much as I wish I knew. So I went to work at Charles Schwab. And I got my Series 7. So I'm a licensed stockbroker. I have my Series 63. And I worked directly on the derivatives trading desk, kind of the elite trading team at Schwab. And I absolutely loved my time there. I loved it. Loved working with clients. And I was so proud of myself for getting my Series 7. That's not an easy thing to do. That license is challenging. But then once I had done that, I felt very confident to go ahead and go on my own again. So now I have my own company. I contract with another company and help them with their members. And now I'm at the point where I'm really trying to build this company up to all it can be. So that's the long story, kind of long, but hopefully a little bit shortened for you. So that's kind of my backstory. And I will tell you this, Christy, I blew up my account multiple times. And one particularly tough story for me, after my mom passed, she left a little bit to me. It wasn't a great deal. It was about $35,000. I put it all directly into my trading account. And I got into a trade where I was averaging down, averaging. And that is the devil, guys. That is the devil. You got to take that loss, right? I blew my mom's inheritance. And I still had kids at home, teenagers at home. I was still waiting tables, trying to trade on the side. I blew that whole 35,000 in my trading account, took it back down to zero. And I will tell you guys, I curled up in a ball for 3 days. I'm not lying. I really went into a depression after that. But what are you going to do, right? Are you going to wait tables the rest of your life? Are you, what are you going to do? To me, trading is my love, it's my passion, but it's also one of the great frontiers left for building wealth. I still see that as a great opportunity for wealth building. So after I had my cry, I picked myself up and dusted myself off, and I rebuilt my account again from zero, waiting on tables, putting little bits away as I could, and eventually was able to turn that corner. But it is not easy, guys. That's why I'm gonna be really transparent here. I get disgusted with some of the stuff I see on YouTube with these guys acting like you can just show up one day and be a trader and drive a Lambo the next, and I just made 75,000 and I've been, I traded for 10 minutes today. It's BS. It's just baloney, right? It's there's no free lunch. We're going to have to put the time in. We're going to have to learn how to do this. And that's why I really applaud all of you for being here, because you are putting the time in. You're trying to learn. And so good for you. Absolutely good for you. So keep up with it. I will encourage you and say it is a great career. I love where I'm at now. It's a whole different life. And those days seem far away, but I remember them. All right. So I'm getting into all of these stories today. Thank you guys for asking these questions. Inner Joy saying that's amazing. Thanks, Joy. Christy saying, wow, what a story. What an awesome comeback. Thanks for sharing. I share that because I want you guys to feel hopeful that it can be done. It can be done, but it's not easy. It's not easy. So hang in there, guys. You all are doing the right thing. You're learning, you're joining, you're here. So good for you. All right. Lots of talking from me this morning. All right. Let's see what's going on. So we had this dip down right below the VWAP, and what we do, recaptured the VWAP. So still basically doing this range bound motion, right? If you squish it down, right, it doesn't look quite so dramatic, does it? Up, down, kind of down. So kind of in this range, and you can see it. These green lines are kind of highlighting where we're spending most of our time this morning. We're up over the VWAP, but I'm half expecting another bit of a drop here. Let's see how far we climb before we drop again. Gavilan, thank you. It is tough being a single parent and trying to make it work. It is. It really is. Yeah. This is a great opportunity. That's how I feel about it, Gavilan. I feel that this is one of the great opportunities still left for building wealth. I really feel strongly about that. And I've done it. So you guys can do it. If I can do it, you can do it, right? All right, coming back down, we're really just at this area right here of the high of day yesterday and the high overnight. So we're getting a little bounce from there. I'd like to play to the downside is what I'm feeling right now. The VIX has given us a tiny bounce on this candle, but we're still overall kind of moving down on the VIX. So let's see if we get any changes in direction here. We hit this overnight high, bounce down. Now the overnight high that I have on the futures is going to look a little different than the overnight high on the SPY, and that's okay. They're usually neck and neck with each other, pretty close. All right, so still by and large in an upward trend. We kind of broke it a little bit in here, but it's trying to get back into this trend. So let's see. The sticking place is this overnight high and yesterday high. That's our little sticking spot. So we're just going to have to wait and see what we do with this level. This is an important level. We hit it from the underside before and got that huge rejection candle, came back up, came over it, came back under it, came over it. So we're really battling this little zone right here. So that's what I'm keeping my eye on. If we can break down under that again, we might be able to take a shot at a quick put. There we go. There's a little come down. No trade right now. As we just kind of battle out at this level, no trade. Just got to wait and see whether we break it to the up or the downside. Coming down just a bit. And getting a little bounce here as well. Just that little up and down is what's going on. And never fear, I'm fixing some of my indicators here, but never fear, I am watching this chart like a hawk. So we've got our MACD on the positive side, but you can see that these candles are a little bit small. No, I'm sorry, I said candles. I mean these bars, right? These bars right here are real close to the zero line. They're not very big. What that tells us is that momentum is kind of low right now. So even though we're, sort of moving, we're really not, the momentum is still on the low side. So you can see, like compared with this move here, look at how that momentum rose on the MACD. So we just went straight up. So you can see how that just corresponds with this move up, right? These bars get bigger, bigger, bigger. That's momentum. Right now, we did have this move up, but really the momentum isn't there in the same way. So we got to, and also the volume, you can see the volume is really low here. So we need to just kind of be aware of that. All right, VIX giving us a drop here with a little pop here. There we go. Breaking this zone to the upside right now. And the MACD did give us a little bit of a bigger bar here. So the momentum increased on this move. And we've got a little short-term top right here, 692.8. We're just a hair away from that. Let's see if they try to run up and beat it. I'm going to take a quick look at our gamma chart. Sitting in positive gamma right now, net positive, with a call wall at 692, which is right where we're sitting. Our next highest call wall is at 694 on the SPY, and our put wall at 690. And usually I just kind of look at these for support and resistance, but they are dynamic. They do move. These gamma levels do move. But right now, we've got a little overhead resistance at 692 and then again at 694 on the SPY. So we could go as high as 694. All right, strong push right up at our opening range. All the way. Let's see if we try to make a new high of day here and push that 694. There it is, new high of day. Strong push here, very strong push. We are overbought on the RSI. So even though this could climb more, I'm not going to take any calls here. It's just, it's risky trading at the high. So that's what I'm being cautious about. I'm really more interested in a reversal to the downside, but they're not giving us one right now. VIX with a little pop. Interesting. All right. Let's see if we try to hold this new high right here, 693.2. All right, Gavilan, on the outside, what are the chances to hit 691 today, or are we on the put side? Chances to hit 691, we did hit it. We came all the way down to 690.9. So we did hit it. What are the chances that we'll revisit that? Hard to say because there's a strong overhead target at SPX 7,000. That's a strong overhead magnet. And we just keep kind of grinding up toward that. Now, could we get another downward turn like we did here? Yes, we could. Hard to say what the odds are. Just basically, the idea is the magnet is overhead right now. However, with the VIX kind of slowly, right now it's coming down, but over the last several days, it's been slowly increasing. I do think we start to see some downside movement, but that may wait. It may not happen today. We've got some real big data coming on Friday, so be aware of that. We've got, let me run over there real fast and I'll tell you exactly what we've got. A lot of data coming out on Friday. So we're going to get non-farm payrolls, the government number. We had ADP non-farm payrolls today. That's the private number. Then we've got unemployment rate. That's a big deal. Average hourly earnings. That's a big deal. Michigan consumer inflation and expectations. That's a big deal. So lots of important data on Friday. Got a little bit coming on Thursday, really just the initial job list, but that's a weekly number. So just be aware of that. I do think we're setting up for a bit of a rug pull, but this overhead target it's a real magnet at 7,000. So maybe we hit that first. It's real hard to say there, Gavilan. So I'm going to just kind of try to trade the charts, right? If we start getting a strong pullback from here, I wouldn't mind playing a put, but I don't know that I'd target all the way down to 691. I'm not sure we'll come down there and hit it again today. We could. The sentiment so far today is fairly bullish. All right, so we're coming down from a little bit of an overbought position. We're outside that outer edge of the VWAP, so we could see some kind of a pullback here. Let's see what happens. We did hit 7,000 on the ES, which is interesting. See that little pop right there? But when I'm talking 7,000, I'm talking the SPX. All right, little pullback here. All right, no signals just yet, even though we are getting a tiny little pullback here. I want to see the MACD start to roll over. So our high on the SPX, we got up to 69.60. So we've got a nice new all-time high, fresh all-time high. All right, getting another little small move here. We're not really pulling down yet. There we go. That's a little better. All right, getting a little signal here to the downside, but the MACD hasn't quite crossed over, so I'm keeping my eye on that. The big green candle, is that a gap fill? Are you talking about this one right here, Gavilan? Let's see. It would be, let me zoom out to a different time frame, because if that's a gap fill, it's not on today's. So I'm not sure if you what time frame you're looking at for that gap, because gaps appear on all different time frames. Yeah, no gap fill, because that's where we, on this candle, that's where we hit the new all-time high. Yes, and a gap. Yes, a gap, and could it fill? So I don't see a gap because we're at the high. So I don't see a gap overhead that it's filling. On the day. Okay, let's take a look on the day. So we're at this high here. So there's no real gap overhead. There's a gap below. So, from here to here, but that's already been, that's already been filled. Now there are some gaps below us. Absolutely there are, but no overhead gaps. So gaps below us, we've got, here's one right here. That's the next gap that should fill. But that'll be to the downside. Right now, we're kind of pushing to the upside. And another push here. Let's see if we grab a new high. Almost. It's trying. There it goes. There's the new high. All right, and I do have some signals for calls to the upside. Again, I'm a little nervous about that, especially at all-time highs. So at this point, I'm kind of looking for a stopping place. But this thing is going. Like I said, that overhead target of 7,000 on the SPX, it's real. It's a thing. It sure wants to keep going, doesn't it? Well, it looks like we're going to run out of time for this thing to give us a downward movement. And like I said, I'm just a little skittish of calls here at the all-time highs. That's where we can get caught buying the top, right? And we don't want to do that. So we are coming up to the end of the stream, but again, I did want to remind you about data on Friday. Be aware. So if you're actively trading, if you're holding positions, be aware of that. We could get some pretty big volatility on Friday or maybe even Thursday. Sometimes we see them front run that a little bit. So we could see volatility spring up tomorrow as well. So just be aware of that. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for your questions and your comments. You're so interactive, and I really appreciate that. We will be back again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mountain. And again, we could see some front running and volatility tomorrow, so we'll watch for that. But it's always a pleasure having you guys here. I appreciate you, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.